session. First, permit me to apologize for this, starting this very late. One of the challenges which we'll be discussing about is contingency planning in terms of our systems. We'll just go straight away so as to manage the time of the executives who are in here and to present to you what we'll be doing today. I will be quickly just introducing Dr.
This webinar, which we are organizing, Leading Edge Consulting is organizing in collaboration with the GC Index. We are glad to have you all here. This webinar is targeted at decision makers, especially in our country, Nigeria, but we've had to invite people from all over the world. So we are glad to have you here for this time. And the intention is to join minds with you that while we are facing, would I say, a terrible time, that we would not give up. As they say, as the saying goes, when the going gets tough, the talk gets going. So we are introducing you to the GC Index, which is an organimetric whose time has come, a 21st century and revolutionary framework, which will help us to navigate across our organizations as we go on, even as peoples, in terms of individuals gaining insights in teams, diverse teams, and organization-wide as we build new cultures to suit the changing times. So you're welcome, and I hope you relax and participate actively in this endeavor. And there will be time for questions, which we would be glad to take. Thank you very much.
Very well. In order to manage the time as well, I would just quickly do one or two things. One, to introduce the panelists of the sessions as to what we'll be discussing. Like Dr. Jidenma has said, we face times where very few of us have an expert knowledge. There is no template, there is no book for which we can take on to do this. However, there is an approach that has worked in dealing with challenges during this particular period. And I believe personally, as someone who has done the test, that there is quite a lot of value in what is going to be presented today. To share with us their thoughts on how this will go, I have Dr. Andrew Nevin, the partner and chief economist at PwC Nigeria. I believe Andrew is currently in Canada right now. Welcome, Andrew.
Great to be here.
Thank you. I have the managing partner of the RRC Global Executive Search Partnership, the partners for the West Africa and African collaboration on the GC Index. So here are the things that we'll need to quickly understand. It is important that we would keep to time so that you can actually gain the full benefits. So what are the benefits? We will start off with a question immediately as we do. We'll do a poll and we'll do one at the later end of it. The key target is that we have presentations from the panelists who will address key issues which you would find relatable to your organizations. We would then ask them for a secondary follow-up opinion, and then we then go on to the critical part of it to have a thorough question and answer session. We would encourage you to wait towards the end where we'll be presenting a demo, what we've sent across to you, what we call the gift link, which some of you would have to participate in, some which I have done myself, and in which we will be able to take on the issues. In the absence of that, I would like to ask Dr. Jidenma if there is any other issue she would like to do in terms of setting up the climate for us, so that we can then proceed into the questions which I'll be asking the panelists, and we'll then proceed.
Very much, Femi, except to say that you have not introduced Mr. Nat Oath, who is the brain behind this GC Index. He is the co-founder of GC Index and consultant of note based in London, United Kingdom. So Nat is joining us from London. Thank you.
Thank you, Ije. Welcome, everybody.
Well, I did introduce Nat because we wouldn't be here without him. Nat, welcome. We're saving the best for the last, really. So Dr. Jidenma, is there any other thing you would like to say before we proceed?
Well, all I would say is that it's really a great pleasure for Leading Edge Consulting to bring this to the table of Nigerians. Leading Edge Consulting is a management consulting firm that has been there for 20 years this year and specializes in human resource management and organizational development. So this is our own contribution to our nation building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will proceed straight away right now to ask questions bordering around what is happening, what do we consider as the real game changer, how should organizations react to it, and how would you address the issue of culture and people change? To start off, I will be asking Andrew the first question, that what does digital transformation mean for today's business leaders? And why would organizations consider how they will scale this up? I'm sure that the need for them to consider digital transformation is becoming more apparent than not. How should they approach it? Andrew, please kindly start.
Thank you so much, and great to be here. Thank you for everyone who's on this webinar. I mean, I think that the issue with digital transformation is we've all heard it for a decade or 15 years, but the current crisis has really brought home the fact that there is no choice. And one of the things that we find at PwC is organizations are really challenged around digital fitness and about generational issues. So for example, you have older staff members, people actually my age, who are not really prepared to make a digital transformation, and yet you have millennials who are so comfortable with it doing so many different things that you wouldn't thought possible. And I think that managing a modern organization through this was challenging. But now when we add the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's accelerated the ways of working, including this kind of webinar, for example, I think it's a tremendous challenge for the leaders to sort their way through it. But there really is no choice. If a leader does not bring his company through a digital transformation in a very short order, they're going to find that they don't survive.
Excellent point. I'll quickly move over to Nat right now. Nat, you've just had Andrew talk about digital transformation, and I've been at different sessions where Andrew has made so many presentations around it. It's been a challenge initially, but over the years, either because Andrew has been able to be consistent in his messaging, and there are so many other organizations who have been consistent as well. And in Nigeria, something significant has happened. Every single organization that has been perhaps resisting before suddenly now know why. But having known the why they should do it, they may not know how. And then secondly, they're having challenges dealing with the issues of culture of staff. How does the GCX index solution and how does it work with this digital transformation issue we're discussing about?
Well, yeah, thank you, Femi. I mean, there's a number of ways in which the GC index will help and facilitate a digital transformation, but let me just try and break it down into some simple steps. With any digital transformation, there will be a people, process, and technology element. And I think the bits that we've focused on historically have been quite easy to measure when it comes to the technology. What technology do we need to change? What technology advancements, improvements do we need to make? Processes, how do we need to change our processes to facilitate digital transformation? The people bit has always been quite challenging because it's difficult to measure. We talk about culture, but it's a very complex and actually intangible part of a transformation. So where the GC index comes in is it provides a language and a framework that shows how everybody can contribute to the process of digital transformation. So it's not about telling everybody, yeah, Andrew's referenced that he's like me on the older side of the generation. You have younger people as well, more open to change. Well, actually through the GC index, the age is something that is largely irrelevant because everybody has an impact to make. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a case study later. So rather than telling everybody you have got to be digital, go and be digital now, well, that's not very easy for some people. What the GC Index will do is go, this is how you contribute to a digital transformation. You know, this is how you can help us digitally transform our business. And then that becomes much more powerful, rewarding, and ultimately very productive for organizations.
Not to mention something about the interrelationship between culture and digital transformation. Do you want to help us clarify that linkage between culture and digital transformation?
Yes, of course, Femi, you know, you cannot have digital transformation without the people. It's just like when you talk about organizational behavior. An organization does not have any behavior. It's the people that have the behavior. So the people are the center of digital transformation. Like they say, garbage in, garbage out. And so in digital transformation, it's the people and the way they do it, and that is what is called culture. Culture has to do with the shared values. So it becomes very important. You see, in 5 areas of the world, London, Canada, Nigeria, and so on. So when you have a situation where you are working remotely or virtually or even hybrid, some are working online, some are working physically, or even some are working part-time, some are working full-time. A lot of complexities. As they say, this is the world of VUCA environments in terms of volatility, in terms of uncertainties, in terms of complexities, and in terms of ambiguities. So for you to navigate through all these, it's not easy, and have a harmonious culture. So that's what the index brings to the table, because if you take the GC Index and you know how you make impact in an organization, then of course, it will give you insight as an individual, at the individual level. And for organizations, it will show the sort of people you have to bring on board if you want some particular tasks to be accomplished, even at board level, because diversity is very key these days. Diversity is not only about gender diversity, you know. Diversity is also about the way you do things. Some people are strategists, some people are implementers, some people are what they call polishers, who believe in continuous improvement, whereas some people are game changers. And game changers have to do with ideas. Some are ideas oriented, some are people oriented, and others are task oriented. But I must tell you, we need all these people for us to make us even in digital transformation. So it's very key, the kind of culture, because it's now a challenge for the organization to make sure that people have insights into themselves and play to their capabilities or natural strengths, natural endowments. And now it has become more competitive COVID-19 to do that. Because if you have a board where everybody's extroverted, I've had to do a board evaluation where I found that out of 7 people, only 1 person was introverted.
Okay.
And that's because everybody's on the go. There's some time for call for introspection, time calls for reflection, and so on. And so that's what the GC Index brings to the table. So as you are doing digital transformation, even for M&A and acquisition, as you integrate, you want to know the sort of people you need game changers, and so on. But I must tell you that a team with only game changers is a team set out for chaos. So
Dr. Jidenma, I'm going to take you up. I'm going to take you up on that later on, but I will take a pause right now because I want to invite Andy to clarify that I have a poll going on right now. Now, Andy, do you want to quickly join in and clarify this poll and how people could participate in it?
Yes, thank you. So we're running a poll at the moment, which you should see flashing up at the bottom of your screens. The question we're asking at this point is which of the following best describes your organisations, and this is in terms of digital transformation. So it's whether you're planning one, going through one, finished, or it's not even on your radar. So if you look at the bottom of your screens, you should see the poll icon flashing. If you click on that, it should let you then answer it. We've had 67 out of 101 attendees respond so far, so I'll leave that poll running for a little while, and yeah, once we've got all the answers in, we'll let you know the results.
Thank you very much, Andy. And Dr. Jidenma, I'll come back to you, but let me just go back to Nat. I want Nathan to answer a particular key issue. You were talking about the challenges with the board. And given my experience in change and transformation, I'm sure Andrew will help here. There's a new set of rules right now. I want to specifically focus on how the GC index can actually help the board itself drive their digital transformation, which is now not an option, but an inevitability, and how maybe he wants to demonstrate something for us or show us some slides. Nat, do you want to clarify that for us?
Yeah, so we always start at the exec level. I think if you don't start at the exec or the board level within a digital transformation, then quite frankly, you're starting at the middle of the movie. Yeah, because what you need is you need to ensure that your leadership and board is aligned of what needs to be done. Now, the GC Index acts at board level as a fantastic framework for alignment, because it aligns the board with the direction that we need to go, which then sets the culture of the organization. And I think this, Ije will be talking a little bit later, but often this sense of alignment when we've used psychometrics has made that alignment in the world of personality. It becomes quite personal. And what the GC Index does, it removes egos because we're focusing on people's approach to work. So if you look at the GC Index, it's fundamentally a high level business model. That's what the GC Index is. It's not a psychometric, it's not a leadership tool, it's a high level business model. And you need all of those elements of that business model to be successful. You know, whether it's a digital transformation, an organizational transformation, an M&A, project teams, it doesn't matter. Now, if we quickly go around the model, you know, it's all very well having, as EJ said, game changers that have an original idea. We need those individuals. We need people to move us on. We're transforming. We need new ways of doing things. That's great. But if we cannot make sense of those ideas do not align to our business objectives, they do not align to our transformational objectives, the strategists, then they're just, no one will take them seriously. However, if we have an idea that is wonderfully aligned to our strategy and it's wonderfully aligned to our business, and we don't get on and do anything with it, implement it, make it happen, it remains an idea. We need to make these ideas the best they can be. We need to constantly improve them, as EJ mentions, the polisher, and we all need to work together. So that's the fundamental model of the GC Index. Now, what you often get at a leadership level is you get individuals that have moved up much more into the world of strategy, because that's what we expect of our leaders. And then you turn to leaders and say, we're a digital organization. Now you've got to be creative. And they're like, what? I don't want to be creative. Yeah, well, what? You know, this has worked before. So with what we don't say is, you know, we will then show the board, the leadership, this is how you contribute to the process of creativity. This is how you create creativity within your organization. We're not telling you to be creative. So everyone feels inclusive, everyone feels valued, and everyone understands the contribution that they make. Yeah. Is that helpful, Femi? Does that make sense? I think you're on mute, Femi. I just checking.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I'm sure there are executives in this office who are wondering, how do I find myself? Where do I fit in? I have a vision to run the company. This is what I want to do. I'm good at my job. Nobody can tell me. I know my environment better than you. Who are you not to come and tell me this works with me? I've gone through so many tests all over the place. What is so special about this, and what is it different about it?
Well, you're absolutely right. So firstly, the GC index is not a measure of competence. We're not telling you if you're good or bad. You're clearly going to be good if you've made it to the top of your organization, you've been successful. So I'm not here to tell you if you're good or bad. Yeah. What I'm here to do is what the GC index does is it shows you how you best want to make an impact as a leader to a team. Energy. Yeah. So how you're best going to map, but in a business sense, it's approach to work. If I always get told off for looking at sporting analogies, but it's very simple. We talk about proclivity, an inclination to make an impact. It's the same way if I was in a sports team. These sports teams don't sit there and say, oh, I know what will make this team great. It's going to be an INTP, an ESTJ, a sunshine yellow, somebody extroverted, somebody introverted. This is all personality. What they say is give me someone who's going to score goals, give me someone who's going to defend goals, and give me someone who's going to create play, and let's all work together. Yeah. So that's what we're saying here is, how do you best want to contribute to a business objective? What impact do you want to make? And let's make you be the best that can be. Okay. And that's where it's, people often assume this is a personality. The GC is not about personality. It's not about what people have seen before. We complement personality, that's great, but the GC is an organometric, not a psychometric.
Okay, that's a critical differentiating factor that people would have to address their minds. So I'm going to go straight to Dr. Ije. I'll kindly leave the screen on because it's quite useful. I want Dr. Ije to explain to us how the corporate culture change we are looking at would happen. For example, if I take X corporate limited and the way they make their board decisions, most of the members are not even remotely interested in what is going on in terms of this digital thing. For some reasons, because of the environment and the way we do business, the challenge of interpretability becomes an issue, and they're wondering, what should we really be doing? How do we go about it? And how does this GCX index also help them make that leap of faith? Dr. Jidenma.
Okay. Femi, maybe I would start by finishing up the question you asked Nat, so that we can now anchor it on your question.
Okay.
Let me start with the game changers, right? What we are saying, because you have asked him and he's told you that this is not another personality test or another psychometric test. Yeah, for instance, if I take the game changers, for instance, they don't fit into boxes. We have no box to put them. You know about the competency framework that we have used for years, the hierarchical structures that don't work anymore. So it's not about, I mean, we are involved extensively with executive search and selection. So now we find that it's not just about qualifications, it's not just about experience, it's not even just about competencies or personality. It's much more. We are looking at how you make impact. And this is the box that is actually missing in the whole equation. So when you see that managers do things right and leaders do the right things, in the case of game changers, they rewrite the whole script. See what Facebook is doing, see what Google is doing, and see what Uber is doing. There are disruptions everywhere. And I believe, I dare say, even in our society, even in our, you see our banking system and all that, digitalization, the fintechs are coming in. So we have to rethink. We have to totally rethink in terms of impact. And if your people are not properly placed, then there will be a problem. So, but beyond placement is the culture thing that I've been talking about. Because if you have your people dispersed without having a consensus in the way to work, for instance, now trust is a major factor. If people have to work remotely, then you must trust them with confidential information, with data, and so on. So these are some of the things that are being redefined in leadership. There's also empathy. You have to understand the challenges. For instance, here now we have our staff working from home and all that. There must be empathy. So these are the cultural elements hooked on the value system. And authenticity comes to play. You have to be really authentic in yourself. If I have to digress a little bit, I know there was this post in WhatsApp saying, what do these countries have in common? Germany, New Zealand, and so on, where they have a little, I mean, the COVID thing, the family in control. And you find out that it's the values. Leadership now is not about grandstanding. It is not about ego. It is about empathy. It is, you know, about authenticity. So these are the sort of cultures when you are doing digital transformation that you need to put in place so that things will work well. But if you incline to the former culture elements, cultural elements, then things are not going to work. So what is the role of GC Index in all this? Yeah, a vital role indeed, because if it's the framework or the language of the organization, then everybody understands, oh, why is Fumi on this team and not Biola? Yeah, we need Fumi because Fumi is a game changer. That's why Fumi is there. And it's anchored on objectivity. So, so that's it. And then, for instance, why has this person been redeployed from a position he is? He used to supervise, A used to supervise B, but A is an implementer. How on earth will an implementer be supervising a strategist? It doesn't work. So this is the difference that you see in organizations, why some organizations are getting it right, and yet some are filled with tension, unnecessary tension. So that's the cultural, how culture comes in.
Thank you very much. And you're actually on time. I've just measured the whole timing. I've gotten us back on time now. Thank you very much, Dr. Jidenma. But you've also set up Andrew very much so right now, because Andrew now has the challenge of using his experience of dealing with change generally in Nigeria to help us understand the question they normally ask him, because most companies will say, how does this offer me competitive advantage? How would I be able to get ahead of future disruption? Is it going to be just like I'm going to get into something I have no control over? How do companies have to answer this question, Andrew?
Well, to begin with, I think that, I mean, I've led hundreds of teams over the years in 4 continents. And I have to say, and I've done all the psychometric testing. Had a big impact on me in doing MBTI 30 years ago. But the thing that the GC Index brings to the table here is, as Nathan puts it, what are the roles that you need people to play? I mean, as leaders, we all want to have impact, positive impact. We want to be ahead of the curve. And what you realize is that if you choose people like yourself, you're likely to end up in the wrong place, right? And the one thing I've learned is, and I really enjoy doing my GC Index thing, but things that I'm strong at, I then need to have other people on the team that are strong in other dimensions. I mean, it doesn't matter what your ideas are. If you don't have a polisher, it's never going to work. If you don't have someone that's the playmaker, it's never going to fit together. And I think for leaders, what they need to realize, if they're going to be leaders and not just managers or bad bosses, what they need to realize is that they need these collections of capabilities to make the system actually function. And when they put together, even if at an organizational level, but even at an individual team level. So you think about, I mean, my clients are largely in the financial services industry in Nigeria and Ghana. They have huge needs for change, for new product development, for digitizing products, to reaching new markets, financial inclusion. And all of this takes major projects. If you don't put people leading the project team with all of these dimensions on it, it's ultimately going to fail. And I think in a way, this is going to distinguish the leaders that are successful from the managers that fail, is recognizing how to put together a team in the modern world with the digital agenda, with the way that millennials communicate, with the social media, with all the challenges we have in Nigeria. And the ones that can put together the teams that can get a solution are going to ultimately be successful. And I mean, the worst outcome, and all of us have been there, is when we have teams that don't end up with a result. Very expensive, sets the organization backward on that. So that, I think, to me, was the major message coming out of the GC index.
Well, but Andrew, I need you to help me out with one major question. If you're sitting in front of a board of a major corporation in Nigeria, and they are saying to you, my major concern is I have different tools. So what do I do with all the tools I'm using? How does it all come together? Because is this not just another fad? What do you say to them?
Well, as I said, I mean, we've all taken all of these tests over the years. I mean, I think the question I would say to the CEO is let's take this framework, the 5 sorts of roles, the playmaker in the center, and ask the following question. When we look at your EDs and general manager cohort, does that group, who's playing what sort of role on there? And I think CEOs need to be more conscious of the fact that if you have someone on your senior management team that is not playing one of these roles in a positive way, then I think I would challenge the CEO and say, look, what is this person contributing to your organization? I used to have a saying, I'll introduce a term here on this call, that what you don't want in your organization is endothermic people. And for those who are chemical engineers on the call, endothermic means they absorb energy, right? If you have people in the organization that absorb the energy, the organization's energy, you're going to fail. The thing about these 5 roles, sorry, I'm pointing at I've got another screen up, but one of the things is each of the roles has to create energy in the organization, and all the other people who have different strengths need to understand that other roles are needed. They need to respect those other roles. But if you have people that don't understand that totality, I mean, in a way, it's like a natural ecosystem. Everyone has to play a role in the natural ecosystem. So that would be my message to the CEO. And if you have someone on your team who's not playing a positive role in one of these areas and is not understanding all of the other roles that need to happen, it's just, you have to ask yourself the question, should that person be staying in the organization? And it's very costly. Just money, success. If you have a board level person, an ED level person in a large organization, and they are not making a positive contribution across one of these dimensions, the impact on the overall organization is immense. And that's always been my message to CEOs. I mean, it's so easy to delay, and all the mistakes I've made over my career are usually delaying dealing with people issues. So I think this is a incredibly useful framework to really think through, what kind of overall team do I need in place.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to go through some few things right now. I'm going to ask you for your thoughts before we go to the questions and answer session. And then we'll take a second poll thereafter, and then we'll do the demonstration. But before you therefore answer that, this question is for all 3 persons. Dr. Jidenma will go first. I would expect Nathan to go after, and then Andrew will comment. Yeah, so a few things I would like to say, and I'm going to be very practical here. One, I have taken the test. And when I did take the test, it was illuminating for me to begin to understand that what I thought I was not so much of what I thought I was, and what I needed for the organization to move forward. We had less people in those areas. And my takeaway was that, how do I measure impact of my people? I've been trained in different ways to focus on it, but the key question is impact. How do I therefore tie that to the goals But sometimes most of the goals are either unrealistic or whatever is there. For example, we started as a digital business. And I could tell you honestly, we didn't understand the meaning of being a digital business until maybe about 5-6 years ago, because the level of knowledge in-house was not as useful as it should be. And if I'm facing the challenge, and I've been one of the first few people in the forefront, when I did that test, I said to myself, wow, what is the next step? And when the test opened my eyes to so many things about myself, my organization, whatever. And so when we say it is not a psychometric test, it's not a personality test, I agree, I believe. But then it is also a test of how we run the organization in some way. So I think, Dr. Jidenma, please, if you can help me clarify that. And I would like for Nat to piggyback on what Dr. Jidenma says and try and show me examples of best practice of where this has been done. And so we can understand it. Then I will then do a follow-up question with Andrew. Dr. Jidenma.
Now, with that diagram once more. Yes, you know, when people have been wondering about this, and we are saying the current framework we have. No, not this one. The one that are missing beyond the competency framework. So that's what we are missing beyond the competency framework. So in organizations, if you look at the screen, you will see that most of the time when you are doing placement, especially with an executive search and assessments, you, first of all, you are looking at qualifications, you are looking at expertise, what has this person been able to do, and skills, and so on. And then we are also looking at experience, some cognitive experience. And for sophisticated companies, for instance, Dr. Nevin talked about MBTI, which is quite popular in terms of, but these are just, yes, sites, but they're not still that dynamic. The issue about the GC index is that it's contemporary. It was developed over a decade. With people who are actually on the field working together with some university experts in UK. So, and it looks at what impact you are bringing to the fore. And when we're talking about impact, it's actually measurable in the sense that you lay to your strengths, to your greatest strengths, and that's what it is. I've been able to use it for a Nigeria upstream oil and gas company to for direct reports to a CEO, and a lot came up. For instance, one of the things that came up was that the CEO was actually very good and savvy in the way he placed people, because most of them fell within their natural proclivities. But there were a few that obviously were ill-placed, and even giving them feedback and so on, it was obvious that they were ill-placed. There's no way they could work as a team. And we had to take it from there in terms of how further developmental work and so on, and redeployments. I had made a case before in terms of when you have someone that is an implementer supervising someone that is a strategist, nothing will work. I had said before that you have only game changers. As much as game changing is good, at this point, it will be chaos, because you need people to anchor. You need implementers, those that are tasked to anchor this. You need polishers who believe in continuous improvement, those that are dotting the T's and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So also, if you have a team that do not have game changers strategies, there's a problem there. And of course, the playmaker is the orchestra that brings everybody together. So it was very, very obvious, and the company really valued it and used it for their further executive development. And of course, company-wide, all of them had to take it so that, they're on the same page in terms of, but taking it beyond that, in this COVID-19 is the cultural aspect also, in terms of what are we going to value? What are the things that we need to value now? Is it hierarchy? Is it seniority? Or is it agility and innovation? And so on and so forth. And so, so that's what I can say about it.
Thank you very much.
Time limits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nevin.
Yeah, thank you, Femi. What I'll do is just what I've been asked to do, just walk through a quick example, but let me just do that for you. So back to your question firstly about the CEO, and I've done lots of these tests. A simple question would be to ask them, how many business decisions have you made using those tests? So I'll give you an example where senior executive of SAP, for example, the technology firm, said, I love MBTI. I brought MBTI in the business, had it for 10 years. It's really helped me understand my individual people and teams. It's been great, but I've never made a business decision using MBTI. In 6 months, I've made 7 business decisions using the GC Index. So that's the shift, okay? And that's the shift. Some companies use MBTI and the GC Index together. They measure different things, and that's great. So when you're talking to your executive, what are you trying to get from this? What are you trying to measure? If you want to make business decisions, the GC Index is a good place to look at. Now, if I just share my screen, you asked me, so a couple of things. What the GC Index is interesting, obviously, at an individual level, and people will get a chance to try that. It gets very powerful when it moves up to a team level and then at an organizational level. It's an organization metric that allows you to align people to any business process. So this, through a digital transformation, this is an organization that's going through a digital transformation. These are 6 of their teams. 6 different teams going through the transformation. Here is the exec. Okay, this is your exec team. All right, brilliant, very strategic, good playmakers, very good at setting direction, very good at aligning direction, very good at taking people with them. Yeah. What we're not saying is, Mr. or Mrs. Executive, that you're rubbish at polishing and rubbish at game changing. We're not saying that. Okay. What we're saying is this is what you're good at. But how are you embracing new ideas that have been sent to you? How are you embracing change? Because look at your innovation team. Your innovation team is, as you would expect, full of ideas, lovely ideas. And how are they connecting back up to the exec? This is the development team. Yeah, much more implementer, polisher, roll stuff out, get things done, not particularly strategic. How are they communicating with the team? So you start to ask questions about, it's not innovation team going, oh, you lot are boring because you've got no ideas, and it's not development saying, oh, you lot are too crazy and don't understand the business, what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, they're both good at what they do, and it's working a language they can both communicate with each other. So in terms of what the GC Index has resonated, it's over 1,000 clients now. We launched it in 2017. The research started in 2013, and Ije and Leading Edge are a master GC partner bringing it into Nigeria. So that's Ije has had the foresight to really take this international learning and bring it to Nigeria, and that this webinar today. But it works. Yeah, we know it works. Been using hundreds of different transformations, 40+ countries. Now, one quick example, the GC Index is also embedded into the global telecommunications digital maturity model. It's any telco, any telecommunications company looking to transform, digitally. The GCINDEX is embedded into that digital transformation, digital maturity model, which we can talk about. We're going to use one example very quickly. It's Orange. Most people will know Orange. They're France Telecom, really, but they've moved into Orange around the world, helping them through their digital transformation. Now, this is Accenture's Digital Performance Index. This is just saying that Orange were sort of in the top 15 in all 4 DPI dimensions. So a very digitally advanced business over time. We worked with, at the time, was their group CIO, Pascal. He's now the board level advisor, CEO advisor for Orange. And this is what he said. You know, it's given us an opportunity to understand what these game changers bring. So unleash this talent that is potentially a bit, as Ije said, doesn't really fit into our traditional frameworks. It gives us an opportunity to understand that, but also give us a diversity of impact across our entire digital team. So it's not just about the ideas, it's not just about getting stuff done, it's how everybody plays at the right time, and in the right way, and is valued for it. You know, what do we learn? Well, he just do it. So this is the group CIO of Orange says just do it, right? Like, I mean, you know, it helps you reveal game changers and value profile diversity. It really increases self-confidence in fast-moving environments. Now, it shows people how they can be adaptive. Yeah, that's really quite important when it comes to digital transformation, and it increased diversity acceptance. You just want to go and get things done. Oh, great, I need someone like you. Or you think about how this all fits in. Oh, that's great, I need that. Show me what we need to do, whatever it might be. Diversity acceptance. And he just says it just brings superior performance. If you've got a good GCINDEX cocktail, these are his words, very French. A GCINDEX cocktail. I haven't made it. We've had some GCINDEX cocktails, but I don't think he's referring to drink. So just finally, potential improvements. Get the GCINDEX benchmarks with peers in your industry. That's something that they wanted to work on. Get some telco benchmarks. Definitely include the GCINDEX in my leadership assessment. Start from the top. Yeah, and then integrate the GCINDEX as a standard component of recruitment and HR leadership assessments. And then what would he do in order? If you wanted to know more about the digital maturity model for the telco sector, you would do that first. Assess your CIO teams with a mix, the company leadership model, the GCINDEX. Choose relevant CIO teams, the digital model, and extend and cascade the GCINDEX profiling BPR and all CIO teams. So this is the recommendation of what should be done just by Orange. But as I say, there are hundreds. But hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of it working in practice. Okay.
Thank you very much. Because I'm going to go straight to Andrew right now. And what I basically want to know is that, Andrew, you've almost beaten up everyone with digital transformation. So we're going to have to find a new language to be communicating right now. So maybe GCINDEX works for me. But I looked at a presentation by Nathan, and there are two things that stood out for me. One is that I'm grateful that there's an African institution, the First National Bank, on the list, which I saw there. And that's a South African institution, very good. I've also seen that I can benchmark that myself. But I also saw something interesting about the delivery team and the spread within the delivery team, and that seems to be much more a different thing. I begin to see where impact can be measured. The third thing I saw was that this is a CTO-led anchored change initiative. So, Andrew, before we take questions, can you just help me put all these things together in context of how a Nigerian organization, I think I've asked that question, but I'm still going to ask it again, because the challenge is always convincing the board about the first move. What do we need to therefore do right now? I say, let us take it forward and then move on with it. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, let me start by saying in my decade, more than decade in Nigeria, one of the things about the Nigerian leaders is that they're generally very open with new ideas. I mean, we all know how many people go for their training courses at Wharton and the London Business School and Harvard. They embrace new things. They enjoy training. So I think that there is an openness for these sorts of ideas on there. I think though, the one thing that's critical to make sure we communicate is, unlike really, if you ask about digital transformation, the way I would say it is, it made it very difficult to have an individual star. Like if you think of a bank traditionally 20, 25 years ago, I mean, you would have basic risk management processes, but then you would send someone up to be in charge of, say, the North, so to speak, based in Abuja. They're running all the branches in the North. And then they have an individual P&L on that, and they're measured on that. The problem now is that to deliver anything from a bank or financial institution literally takes hundreds of people, different teams, technology, risk management. There's no individual who is driving it. So if you take that as the starting point, then you have to have a team that functions well. And then I think that what's the most powerful about it, again, I'm pointing at the screen, and I think Nathan really hit it, is it's not just a question of having the right balance between strategists and playmakers and polishers. It's also having people recognize that the other capabilities or the other strengths are critical. So, I mean, I am someone that really values polishers in my organization. I really value people that make change happen, the implementer. And so I want to make sure in all of my teams that I've got that strength, for example. But if you have someone who's a great polisher who doesn't recognize the role of the playmaker, the game changer, is not a great polisher, because it's not going to work on that. So I actually think that the key, everyone can understand this framework, and it makes sense. But to make it operational, you also need to make sure in your organization, quite frankly, if you don't have the right people, you need to change them. I just come back to that message. But the people need to have this diversity acceptance. And I think that this sort of training, and of course, it's not just the individual taking the GC index. I think that's powerful. But what the most powerful use of this is when people get together and find out that they're different, and then start to have the value of the differences, the value of the diversity acceptance. So that's what I would say to Nigerian CEOs. But it's like anything on this world, if people don't adapt to what's going to make them successful, they're not going to survive. So some organizations will pick up on ideas, this sort of idea, GC index or other ideas to help them, and they will do better. The other organizations will, by natural selection, kind of come to an end. So, but I would urge really for CEOs and boards to think about this sort of approach, because it is so pragmatic. I think Nathan also hit it on the head. No one's ever made a decision with MBTI, but with this, you can make decisions on how you conduct your business.
Excellent point. Thank you, my dear panelists. I'm going to go straight to the questions and answers. And to help me with that, I'm going to invite Andy to help me with the questions that the distinguished audiences have been putting together. So Andy will guide us with that. I must also say that while we're taking the question and answers, please hold on. We would like to do a demo presentation by Nevin. There will be one on the GCX index team profiles as a gift for those who are participating in here. And we're lucky that the questions are not too many from what I've seen, which shows the level of understanding already by those who are attending. And so we'll be able to move quickly into the presentation. And then maybe you will have further questions after the demonstration, and we would love to take. Andy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Femi. Yeah, so we've had a question over from Isaac Adiza. He's asked, how can digital transformation and game changer index bolster productivity and financial performance, as well as sustainability in an audit or consulting firm?
And that would naturally go to Nathan or Andrew.
Yeah, so we have a number of consulting and audit firms that we've worked with, or they're actually our partners. So people like Deloitte, FTI, and in terms of the partners. Really, if we take it back down to real basics in terms of productivity, think about how many great working relationships you've had before, productive relationships. When you've worked with someone for 2, 3, 4 years, you sort of have that learning and you know how you're both going to approach work together, right? You know that. Now, the challenge with that is it takes years to do that, right? Whereas, so the first thing is what the GC index does, it gets that productive relationship, not, oh, you're nice and I'm nice and oh, you're a bit extroverted, and I'm a bit introverted, be nice to each other. Not that, I mean, really, this is how we're going to impact the organization together. That type of relationship. So rather than having that months, weeks, years to do that, the GCINDEX can give you that in hours, maybe a couple of days. So the productivity comes very, very quickly in people understanding how to work with each other to deliver work, to deliver outcomes remotely or otherwise, yeah, much quicker. So a lot of productivity comes from that, first of all. Secondly, is just like what Andrew was mentioning when it comes to teams. Intra-team stuff and inter-team stuff, yeah? It's around, have I got the right team to deliver this? So if I've got an innovation team that has a bunch of implementer and polishers in it, are they the right team? Yeah, are they going to keep spinning wheels and not actually get the innovation I want? Or if I've got a delivery team that's very game changer strategist, are they really going to deliver stuff? They're not delivering what I need to do. That's an intra-team stuff. And inter-team stuff is, I've got a breakdown in communication. Often with digital transformation, there's often tensions at the boundaries. Tensions at the boundaries of teams, yeah, whether it's finance, marketing, whether it's innovation, sales, whatever. And really unlocking those tensions of the boundaries really drives that productivity. So what you're doing is you're delivering work with, you know, someone once said, half the people, twice the work with half the people in half the time. So that's where the productivity comes from. Does that help for that, answering that question, Isaac? If not, do raise your hand and
okay.
Some more.
Andrew, you want to chip in, please?
Well, I think with respect to firms like ours, like PwC, I mean, the digital transformation is well underway. I mean, one of the things that's happened over the past even decade is we use so many more we use automated tools to do things. So if you think of this, the core audit, for example, 20 years ago, we had armies of young people go in, pour through physical books. That doesn't happen right now. We build robotics and we build automated tools, as I said. The reporting is essentially in real time. So we're under the same pressure as everyone else on this. And if we don't go through continuously our own digital transformation, we're not going to be successful. I mean, at the end of the day, no one wants an audit 120 days after the book closes. What people really want is real-time information. And the only way that's going to come is digitally. And it also not only helps the client, but it drives down our own costs. As Nathan says, we're doing probably 3 times the work with a third of the people using these kinds of tools.
Excellent. Andy?
Just to add, I mean, that's a great point, because we're talking a digital transformation. A lot of people believe that it's, you know, about doing exciting stuff with technology, but it can literally just be about certain efficiencies. I mean, it could be something as simple as lights off accounting. It could be a zero back office. It could be a bunch of things which are fundamentally automating existing processes. And that's very different to, we have to do things radically different using technology. So it's also the GCINDEX helps frame what stuff do we just have to, business as usual stuff, do we have to digitally transform? What stuff do we have to incrementally improve? And what stuff do we have to transformationally change? And putting all that in the language and aligning people to those elements in what Index does, which drives us for further value and productivity.
Andy?
Okay, another question's come in. I love the picture of the model. So I'm assuming that's the game changer, strategist, implementer, polisher, playmaker, roundel. This model seems so simple, which is a great thing to help keep efficiencies running. But surely the best team to construct is a team which has one of each. What are the circumstances where that wouldn't be the case if there aren't any? And if it is the case, then surely, you know, how do we use the GCINDEX if that is the case?
That's a great question.
That's for you.
Right. You're absolutely right. So firstly, the GCINDEX is a data point. Okay. So, and it has, firstly, it has 3 levels. You have the very simplistic level, which we've said, the high level business model with strategist, game changer, implementer, playmaker. That creates a language. We have the next layer, which you'll see is we have, because people are more than just one. You know, you get scores out of 10. We all got elements of this. Yeah, so we're not all just a game changer or just a strategist. You'll see you get marks out of 10, so you can see has someone got some moderate energy for this, or no energy for this, or high energy for this. So you start to understand. So it's like a sporting analogy, yeah, right? If we've got to go onto the pitch and we've got no strikers, yeah, someone's got to play up front. Yeah, someone's got to play in strike. Who's going to do that? Yeah, so it gives you that conversation to see, well, who's got a secondary proclivity in this area, or who's got a strongest proclivity in this area? Can we play that role? Yeah, is the current team makeup fit for the business objectives? If not, where are the gaps? What do we do about it? Because we know what we're good at. Do we have to go and get someone from outside? Do we have to all have to really give extra attention to this area because we know it's not our strongest area? Yeah, or is there someone else in our organisation we could bring into this team? But you're absolutely right. It would be, we would like to see you know, at least a balance of proclivities across all in teams, but not always possible. Right, and Andrew will know, living in the world of professional services, we work a lot with professional services clients. It's who do we put on this project team? It's normally who's available, right? So because that's the way it goes. But what you're saying, what we can look at is who's best as well when it comes to forming teams, not just who is available.
So here's what we do, Andy. Permit me if I may come in here. My job is to keep the integrity of our time commitments, and I want to do so. But I think that the questions I've seen here, there are quite a couple more, quite interesting questions, some bordering more on the issues we've addressed, but most importantly, throwing more light on issues like the question asking about the negative unconscious bias that occurs, the question asking about organizational drive and the issue of trust, and we are operating in a society with a trust deficit. There's also the question about what you do about some of the other challenges. What I'm hoping we can do is to actually do the demonstration right now and use that demonstration to be able to encourage those who are still the participants in here. And then most of those questions would have been addressed in those demonstrations. So if we just proceed straight to the demonstration, I would appreciate if we do that now.
Yeah, I can do that for you. You mentioned that one about trusts, which is really important because a lot has been written about inclusive leadership, right? There's a whole world of, we've got to be an inclusive leader. We would take the view that unless somebody's contribution is recognized and valued, I'm not quite sure how they're going to feel included. Doesn't matter how many things you do around the edges, it's about valuing the contribution and impact someone brings to a team. That's when they start feeling included. And that's the point we would take around trust. You're an implementer, I trust you to do this. Yeah, you're a big game changer, I trust you to do this. Because we trust people by what they do, not what they intend. And so that's where the GC index comes in, because it shows intention of how they want to make an impact. Much easier to trust. So in terms of the demonstration, look, we've got, most people have taken the GC index, okay? So they've taken, this is a sample group from people on the call today, okay? We've just done one slide of 15, many more have taken the GC index. We've just taken a random sample of, now, the first thing that you should notice, as I mentioned, is that we're all bits of this. We're not one thing or the other. What you're noticing, firstly, is that you're all different, okay? You all want to make impact in different ways. Now, reminder, a high score doesn't mean you're necessarily good at something, and a low score doesn't mean you're necessarily not good at something. We're measuring proclivity, okay? Inclination to make an impact, and the equation is T plus a skill set equals an impact. So what do I mean by that? let's take this individual here. Okay, so they've got a 9 on Game Changer. They want to impact the team through new ideas. They do not value arbitrary rules. They do not value received wisdom. Okay, now let's assume this person was a Michelin star chef opening their own restaurant. Yeah, they would want to be able to lead with new ideas, new recipes, do things radically differently, have a radically different restaurant and all that good stuff with some good quality because of the polisher. This one here doesn't mean that they're not any good at doing the dishes or doing the washing up. It just means they might be brilliant at it, but just don't leave them in that space because that's not where they want to make their impact. Okay, make sense? Okay, now, as you see, everyone is different. So then you're starting to very quickly see people here. How do we think this individual might then interact with this individual? Yeah, for example, down here on the bottom left. Now, this individual is going to be all about ideas, do things differently, new ideas. This individual is going to be much more pragmatic. Well, how does it make sense? How do we get on and do something? How do we do it? They will either clash together, yeah, or they've got a good working relationship. This person will help this person put their ideas into reality and operationalize them. Very simple stuff. Yeah. And that's when you start seeing, even with people's cursory understanding of the GC index, you will start to see, yeah, how this individual here will be brilliant with new ideas and doing things differently and making them great, would need some help to make sure they're doing the right things at the right time or aligning, because that two on strength, they're not going to be interested too much in aligning it. Yeah. Whereas this individual over here could really complement them really well. They could work really well together. So that's at a dual level. Now, what we then do is you roll up to a team level, and we've just done a team snapshot of everyone who's taken the GC index on this call today. And this is the shape of the team. Okay. Now, probably what we would expect, given the topic of this webinar, it's people that are forward thinking, looking to change, digitally looking to move things on. So if we were a team as a group, yeah, we would be a wonderful innovation team. We would have wonderful ideas. We would have wonderful new ways of doing things. We might clash around new ideas. Playmaker score would probably get along. Yeah, would probably. However, looking at this team, if I was the boss or the leader, I would have question marks as, is this team going to bring ideas that are going to align to our business objectives? Are they thinking about what ideas they're bringing together? Yeah. Are they just wasting their time on ideas that aren't going to bring any value? So we might need to complement them with, you know, some form of strategic thinking, whether that's through another team, another individual, and also, are they ever going to get anything done? Yeah. Are they ever going to actually implement anything? They're going to get anything out, or is nothing ever going to be good enough for them to deliver? So therefore, we're starting to thinking, what does this mean for this team? Yeah, how can we help them? How can we really get the power of this thinking into tangible outcomes? So these are the sorts of things that we can do in a digital transformation. Is that helpful, Femi? Is that okay? I don't want to go too long, but
okay. So here's the thing, right? I'm sure that right now you've set so many questions up in our mind to review in terms of our organizations. And as I'm moderating, I'm also a student as well right now, because we are in the process of change as well. And we basically need some understanding to get out of this whole quagmire, because ours is not a reaction to the development. It's what we need to do going forward. And I think the challenge for most organizations is to understand that what we are facing right now is not just adapting to a problem, but it's got to be a conscious decision about where we go going forward. And I think that's what Dr. Jidenma has been trying to push across to most of us. So what we want to do right now is that to assure those participants who were in there, we started with 106 participants, I have 100 in front of me now, so I think I'm down by say 5.6%, which is a very, very more than acceptable rate. Or someone just came back up, and so I'm just lost 5% throughout the whole entire what I never asked. And Dr. Jidenma, this is a testament to the team of panelists you have put together. So what we'll do is this. I'm going to go back to Andy to say, Andy, can you put the second poll up so that we can kindly complete that after listening to what Nathan has said, and take us through so that we can complete that right away, and then I'll come back.
Yep, that's all done. So the poll that's currently running, given everything you've heard today about the different profiles and different proclivities, we're asking our audience, which of the 5 GC index proclivities do you believe is your main proclivity? So I shall leave that up for a few minutes, and we'll see what we get come through.
Excellent. I must also let everyone know that at the end of this whole session, Dr. Jidenma has the list of all the esteemed attendees. She will be making sure that you have the edited recording and of the communique at the end of it. So most importantly is to ask one question that came to me directly. Is that should we want to go about how do we, to start this in our organization, what should we do? Dr. Jidenma. Dr. Jidenma.
Yeah, thank you very much, Femi. Honestly, Femi, I would like to also tell the audience that the GC index is about everybody in the organization. Granted that this first in the series of our webinar is targeted at C-suite people, the CEOs, chairmen, decision makers, and all that, just to set the tone at the top, because it's an organic metric that goes across board. But I must tell you, Femi, we have other programs for mid-level, senior level people. And we will be training ecologists. Ecologists are those, and certifying them in the use of the GC index. We want to have aggregate pool of people in organizations, so they can also do it for their organizations. Where you have big organizations, you have people who understand that even when you are doing your digital transformation, your mergers and acquisition, your search and selection, your placements, manpower audit in these days of right sizing, and so on and so forth. So this is just the tone at the top. And the other thing is that the GC index in itself has a lot of developmental value. That's why we say no one proclivity is superior to the other. You may not be a game changer, but you might be part of a game-changing team, because if the strategist has all his ideas in the air, in the cloud, who will bring it to force? Who will bring it to fruition? So that's the question. So everybody has the role to play. And there's also room for coaching. There are some people, because of limited exposure, they're not able to do certain things. In this world of complexities, people are working across geographies and all that. Then you begin to groom your executive level people. I mean, even when they've shown their shown potentials alongside other roles you would like them to play. Over time, people actually can gravitate to other things. Just like Nathan said, it's a continuum. It's not mutually exclusive. It's not all or nothing sort of thing. Personally, I would like to share that I'm a game changer and a polisher. I like to dot and cross the T's while putting my ideas to action, just as we are doing today. I think I lost my thought. Femi, what else would you like me to share with you?
Well, exactly, is that if there are quite a couple of questions from here, and I think Andy is going to be mad with me, not allowing him to ask all the questions, but I want to keep the time. That is very important to me, but it's important to get this out. They want to know about how do we identify, well, the question's gone off. Let me just put it back up. Andy just sent it to all the panelists as well. Are there courses, which is what you answered, that there will be program for specialists, the trainer courses?
There's executive coaching, executive coaching as well. Yes.
Yeah. So the question is this. So I'm a CEO. Someone sent this to me personally. He said I'm a CEO, and I don't really know. I don't like talking about myself. So who do I go to talk to about this? You want to address that?
Okay. We have the person in charge, Miss Blessing. Blessing is in charge of this. She's our associate director of for GC Index, and if you go to our website and you can send us a mail, and she will get in touch with you. And depending on your need, we would know the relevant staff to do that, or the relevant teams. We work across board globally. Depending on your need, we would know the level of staff that is needed to assist you. And if necessary, across geographies, we will put up teams to help you get it set up or done.
Thank you very much. So we'll be running up. So Andy would take a decision concerning when it shuts the poll down. I think we've had about 63% voted, or 70% have voted up to now. And so while Andy is putting his thoughts together to give us the feedback from the two polls we took, I would like to just have closing thoughts from Andrew, Nathan, and Dr. Jidenma in that order. Andrew, your closing thoughts.
Well, I think in my experience, the biggest mistake that CEOs make is they don't spend enough time on people issues. I mean, it's very easy to think about strategy, operations, risk management, and financial services. And sometimes people issues are difficult. So I guess my counsel to my people here listening and to the executives around Nigeria is, you need to spend 50% of your time on people issues. I mean, the only thing that is going to make your organization successful is if the people in the organization are the right people working together in the right way. So this is a new tool for your arsenal to be able to accomplish that. But you need to put the time in. And of course, the reason that we avoid people issues is because they're hard. But there really is no choice. If you avoid the people issues, you ultimately will not be successful.
Excellent. Nothing.
Yeah, so I just saw a couple of questions come through quickly about how to unlock the culture or unlock difficult parts of the top of the organization, let's say. So what you tend to find through the GC Index is that most large organization cultures tend to be what we call L-shaped. They tend to be very strategist, implementer, polisher cultures. And therefore, the digital transformation bit tends to be on the outside. An innovation hub, a digital lab, something that is on the outside of the business. What the GC Index enables you to do is those individuals at the top that have worked very hard to get where they have to get to, they're very good at the top of the business, but are a little bit nervous about understanding some of this newer stuff. This gives them a framework where they can feel quite at ease, in themselves. So it does unlock a lot of that tension between organisations that don't like change because they've worked very hard and been very successful where they are. So that's the first thing. The only thing I'd leave you with is a very simple question. Yeah, how are you aligning the impact of all of your people to your digital transformation? How do you do that? Yeah, well, that'll be it.
Excellent. Dr. Jidenma.
Yeah, if I may come in, I would ask a pedestrian question. How many of you that are right-handed have ever signed your signature with your left hand? I think you can try it now and see how good you are at it. So play to your strengths. Your strengths, right? And then, like Andrew rightly said, support yourself with people who have where you have the gaps. But that does not mean you cannot improve on where you have the gaps through coaching, executive coaching and all that, so that you have more insight into yourself. And again, we want to say that there's no superiority in terms of who you are. We are talking about authenticity. Be proud of yourself and what you represent. The main thing is to play to your strengths. The main thing is to have insight into what you are going to bring to the table. The main thing is to realize that today's world is a world of collaboration. Compete with your talent, compete with yourself rather than compete with other people. If you compete with the talents, your God-given talents, you will end up being even better. And so in collaboration with others, the best will come out. And so that's what it is. Especially now that we are not all together. Right now, you're at your different posts. Some people are at home, some in the office, and so on and so forth. So it's a different world, and we have to learn how to make the best out of it. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope we would have thrown some light into some of the questions, and we are available to throw more light, to assist you, to make sure that even though we are in trying times, there are lots and lots of opportunities that this has thrown up. Nigeria is ripe for resetting. Our organizations are ripe for resetting. Those that have not embraced information technology now know with COVID that we cannot run away from it. So how best can we work with information technology? That's the question. And how do we make the best of our staff, executives, low-level staff, and so on? That is the question, and we would be glad to help. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. If I may say something before we all leave, it's to say that Edison's electric light did not come about from the continuous improvement of the candle. And if we're going to make a change during this whole process, we're going to have to do something that we haven't done before. And we must be open to the change. And significantly, what we are talking about is measuring impact, making everybody more included in the whole organization. There are takeaways for me as a founder, and I'm trying to deal with the founder's course, whereby you assume you know everything yourself. And I actually had my team also listening in this session. So whatever I've said here, they've also had the same thing from me. So thank you very much, Nat, for the initiative. Thank you for the program. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do much more in Nigeria, because we are at the stage where change is no longer just a cliche. And Andrew has done quite a number of work in trying to push this agenda in Nigeria. And I'm sure it was just a perfect fit for him to be able to talk here. And so all of us here will commit ourselves in our organizations to this transformation change. The organizers will be sending to you the opportunity to have the transcript. There will also be the video, some which are edited for content so you can watch it in an edited version, courtesy of the partners of Leading Edge. They would also be able to put your questions together, and those we could not answer here, we will try to provide answers to them and send to you. Wish you very best. Have a lovely weekend.